So don't question me about my thing, just do your thing and be cool. Cause I know exactly whose I am, don't worry about it, homie, do you. Cause I've been rapping for a minute now. Used to walk around dead, but I'm living now. I'm just being myself, and evidently people gon' hate when you coming with a different sound. So don't question me about my thing, just do your thing and be cool. Cause I know exactly whose I am, don't worry about it, homie, do you. Cause I've been rapping for a minute now. Used to walk around dead, but I'm living now. I'm just being myself, and evidently people.
What's up, my tokers, jokers, and smokers? It's your man, Chef Rodney, here with another edition of the Daily Chronicles. I'm back. I'm friends in the world, Nikki Lawley. Nikki, how are you doing? Welcome back to the show.
Thanks so much, Rodney. It's great to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Like you've covered some ground since last we talked, and honestly, like I want to pay homage to that first and foremost. Like when I last talked to you, you kind of just started on this journey. Like everything was still kind of fresh in your mind. It hadn't just happened, but like everything legalization and you just started, kind of put us in the perspective of like standing here and turning 180 degrees and looking back on what you've done. How does that make you feel? Like what's going on in your head right now?
Well, Rodney, it's been a hell of a journey. Honestly, when I got my binder the other day, I just got an LLC formed for Nikki and the plant.
Mhm.
And that was like the reality. Like, I'm really doing something. And it's never been about Nikki Lawley. It's always been about the plant and all about its healing powers and how much it can impact other people's lives. Yes, I suffered a traumatic brain injury and it changed my life forever. But I truly believe that happened to me for a reason. And I believe that I'm here to be the voice to help others find cannabis and help remove the stigma.
It's there's a stigma that shouldn't exist, but it does. There's a reason that it exists, and all of it is complete and utter, bullshit. And I think that one of the biggest things that we can do, as cannabis advocates, healers, whatever connotation you want to put to it, it is first and foremost educate and advocate. That's what we need to focus on, and you're doing a fucking great job of that. And I think that it's commendable whenever anybody stands up for what they believe in. Furthermore, having something so traumatic happen to you, a TBI in this case, and being able to overcome that demon, if you will, kind of every day and keep advocating. Now, put me in the mindset, and I know we talk a lot about the mind, but in order to understand what life is like with a TBI, I don't know why I said TBA, sorry, earlier, but with a TBI, I want to see, how a person's mind ticks. I want to see into the mind of a person with a TBI. So when you medicate daily, how much do you medicate, kind of why? Like, give me an idea of medically how you approach a TBI with cannabis.
Sure. So I go to bed with a headache since TBI, and I wake
Okay.
up with a headache.
Mm.
And it's like a 7 out of 10. It's like not a little headache. It's not a little ache. It's at the base of my skull and behind my eyes.
Hmm.
So it is very hard to fall asleep. It's very hard to really do anything productive when you feel that way. So usually that's the first thing that I'm addressing is the pain, whether
Hmm.
it's to go to sleep or whether it's to wake up. Um, but what really is a challenge, and it's gotten better, but it's not ever going to be the way it used to be, is the brain fog, the cognitive
Mm.
the cognitive function, being able to focus on anything, including a conversation. Um, just being able to change subjects and then come back to the original point. Yesterday, I had a great lunch with some ladies, and they asked me to tell them my story, and it was like literally an hour long of telling my story. But they kept coming back and interrupting, but yet
Hmm.
cannabis allowed me to come back to where we left off. And prior to cannabis, that was absolutely impossible to actually come back in a conversation. Um, So the cognitive function, I can do basic math. I can do things that when I'm not medicated, I can't do.
Right.
So the brain is just a really unique organ and it really works different and for everybody. But one of the things that was damaged on me was my frontal lobe, and
Mm.
a lot of our emotional regulation takes place there. So anxiety, depression, imposter syndrome, all those invisible, totally pure, TBI is invisible.
Right.
And the quest for getting a diagnosis was hell, just absolutely hell. And I'm a medical professional. I mean, I'm a former nurse. And to be regarded as someone that's just attention seeking or malingering or faking is heartbreaking from a patient perspective. Um, but we don't know what we don't know. And until it happens to you, it's really difficult for other people to understand. ADHD, I've
Hmm.
had since I was a child, but it got really exacerbated pretty much after my daughter was born.
I can imagine. Yeah.
And it became to the point where I was prescribed Adderall, and I've been on Adderall for years. And when my TBI hit, I was still on the Adderall, but then they said, well, let's take you off it. Adderall definitely had a positive impact on my cognitive function, but
Okay.
it also had a really negative impact. When
Mm.
that Adderall would kind of come out of your system, I hate to use the term bitchy, but I would become very bitchy, very short with people, very angry and intolerant. With TBI, that is so magnified.
Hmm.
You become hypersensitive to noise. Chewing, someone chewing, I just want to kind of scratch their eyes out. Even when I'm medicated, it's just, the sounds that now become just overwhelming in my ears. Until you experience that, you really
Hmm.
cannot understand it. So with the ADHD, I, go to a psychiatrist every 3 months to get a prescribed and my antidepressant that I still medicate with. Um, and I said, you know what? I don't really need the Adderall anymore. Cannabis just is working and I don't have that rebound effect and I'm not as angry. And if I am angry, I can smoke a joint and I'm much better. So, and she's like, really? And I said, yeah, really. She's like, you've been on Adderall for 30 years, you know, 25 years. So, I mean,
Right.
for you to just stop it. And I said, I've stopped it. I have actually 3 bottles of it still that, if I really need to focus, I mean, maybe I will take it as needed, but I don't feel I need it every day. And I feel cannabis has replaced that. And to me, that's a success story of, for anyone. I'm not suggesting we start 12-year-olds on, smoking joints at all.
Right. Right.
I'm saying we need to look at this, I mean, really look at it
Hmm.
because if you knew me, Rodney, when I was in my darkest hours, you would not believe the person I am today. You just, I talk about it and I explain to people how dark of a place I was in, and I was completely suicidal. And cannabis gave me a tiny glimmer of hope. But it wasn't until I was able to access it freely and understand the chemical composition of cannabis and understand about terpenes and understand about minor cannabinoids. The science behind the plant is so incredible. And we're not talking about that enough. I'm a nurse by trade, but people listen to doctors, and
Hmm.
doctors are afraid to approve this movement because it's still Schedule 1. I mean,
Hmm.
that's like endorsing people to do heroin because heroin is in the same class as cannabis, and that is so wrong. And when you really start to understand how messed up I mean, I'm nowhere near a conspiracy theorist, but
I am.
big
I
pharma,
am.
but big pharma really, really, really is not helping our situation. I mean, we
Right.
can watch ads all day long on pharmaceuticals and talk to your doctor about this, and if you're suffering from that, but then there's 10 minutes of, 10, 15 seconds of this commercial is all about all the shit that can go wrong if you take this drug. With
Hmm.
cannabis, yes, there are people that shouldn't use it. Yes, there are exceptions to every rule. But cannabis doesn't have that 15 seconds worth of side effects. No matter
Right.
what.
This, it's interesting because like a lot of your pharmaceutical uh, prescriptions, even ibuprofen and Aleve have killed people. And to find this thing that naturally occurs, and see it actually help people and see it actually help yourself, and know that it's curing you. As you know, there are some euphoric side effects to certain variations of the plant, but to know that this was covered up the way that it was, and that doctors are basically like, hey, I can't tell you anything about that. What I can tell you is that I do have another patient that has had success with this. That's basically a doctor telling you you should probably try this. Now at the same time, they can't say that because you are absolutely correct, it is a Schedule 1. And I believe that in declassifying it as a scheduled drug, I think it admits the mistake of whoever. So listen, cannabis activists such as myself, such as you, such as everyone across the world that's going green, has saved their life, whatever their story is, reason, whatever it may be. I feel that, we don't give a flying fuck about why you scheduled it. We already know that. You're not admitting to anything. We could really give a shit less. We just want you to go ahead and just redact that. We want you to do what's right. Deschedule it, so that we can do more research on it. Because let's face it, you guys have had patents and have been doing research this whole time. So where's the research? You can't give it to us. Okay. Well, what about your patents? It's really interesting, especially with like, in the last month or so, I seen that Pfizer, those people, want to step in the cannabis arena with a $6.3 billion deal.
Uh-huh.
Now, when you come up to, a situation such as that, and you're like, yo, we're stepping in on this, that says something. That makes a statement. No one has stepped in the realm of a deal like that in cannabis that I know of, but that's, I can only speak on what I know. I think that says something, and I think that it would be a very wrong move on anyone's part to do business with the people that have put us in this situation to fucking begin with. That's the truth, you know. Um,
But
moving.
and
Sorry.
note, Rodney,
Mhm.
doctors only hear one language, and
Correct.
they only hear clinical trials, double-blind placebos,
Hmm.
and I totally, while I passionately agree with what you're saying,
Hmm.
the real world, if we really want to normalize this conversation, I
Hmm.
truly believe we have to bring in the pharma because that's
Okay.
who doctors listen to. And I speak this from a medical perspective. I was
Okay.
not trained on the endocannabinoid system as
Right.
a nurse. I was not, doctors are not trained on it.
Right.
So all the war on drugs did was just sensationalize the whole cannabis has no medicinal value. So now the one or two or three or four that start to see it, and then they hear Pfizer has now invested in this company that's into cannabis research,
Hmm.
that's going to make doctors change their perception. I have been
Okay.
called a drug seeker. I
Yeah.
have called, horrible things from that perspective. But I believe there's room for both sides. And I believe that if we are able to work with them and
Hmm.
collaborate with them and bring that legacy along with it,
Yeah.
I believe that it will be a better place. Am I an idealist and hoping, for a panacea and kumbaya? Absolutely. But but I'm also realistic. And if we just keep fighting and just keep talking the negative, things are
Mhm.
not going to
Okay.
change. And that's
I,
just my
you,
personal opinion.
no, and I get it, and it totally makes sense, and I get it. I just feel that, I'm not medically trained in the background, so that plays a role. I have a hard time trusting the same people, that put us in this mess to get us out of it. That's just me. That's the anarchist side of me kind of coming out. That's my cynical like nature, just being who I am over my course and going through what I've went through and things of that nature. At the same time, I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm not saying that I, deeply disagree with it. I can disagree with it and still understand that, okay, here's how I'm going to look at it. Take what you just said and how I feel about it and mix them. What I see is this. I see, a number of people in the United States being able to heal from cannabis more, like you said, because they're influenced from said doctors and from said, whatever, physical therapists, however you may. We can't introduce cannabis to the medical field, in theory, without pharmaceutical reps. Okay, or not just reps, but pharmaceutical companies, insurance companies, things of that nature. That's unfortunate. That's ridiculous, and I absolutely fucking loathe that. But is it a necessary evil? Yeah. If it just helps one person, I absolutely believe that that's necessary. If it helps one person just get through their fucking day, it's necessary. I just hope, and now I'm gonna, shake my bowl, but I just hope that, pharmaceutical companies are like, yo, we messed up the first time. We know what happens. We know how pissed y'all get. We're sorry. Give us a chance to, because if we don't give them a chance to be better, how they can be better, and that's fine. I just don't like Googling Pfizer death, lawsuits and seeing that they're at the top of the list. I don't like that. I don't
Right.
like anything, I don't like that. And then, but at the same time, I can say this: how many deaths have been caused by cannabis? Zero. So right now it's looking good for them only because of the safeness and cannabis side. I'll give you that. But I don't have to trust them. I don't have to like them. And I don't have to believe them. I just have to, hope that they keep their word and kind of move on and teach, doctors and nurses about the endocannabinoid system and things of that nature. I really, really do hope that we can eventually get to that point. I think that that's going to be leaps and bounds, but not what I want to continue talking about. I want to know about something. Do you think that there are people out there that have injuries? Okay, whether it be cancer to whatever have you, to mental health issues, TBIs, the such, issues that we can't necessarily see. Okay, do you think that there's people out there that are chasing the euphoric, feeling of cannabis? And if you believe in that, how can you tell from the people who aren't?
That's a unique question.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, for me, cannabis makes me feel normal.
Okay.
So I don't get high, I get medicated. I get well, if you will. Um, Now I have other friends that they do get high and they do get silly or they do get,
They're
you know,
chasing the euphoria, right?
right. But
Right.
is that really a bad thing? you know, to have somebody smile. I've never seen someone so intoxicated from cannabis
Mhm.
that it turns them into a total ass. I have seen many people who drink alcohol and
Almost instantly, yeah.
and they're fighting. They're
Hmm.
mean, they're nasty, they're angry. And with cannabis, they want to go to sleep, and
Hmm.
maybe that is their sign that it's too much for them. For me, I microdose all day. So
Okay.
I don't get high. I mean, I must smoke my medicine, and that's such taboo. Um,
Right.
I find after 30 minutes of doing any kind of heavy neuro lifting, like talking on podcasts, like
Hmm.
a long Zoom call, things like that. If I don't medicate relatively regularly, I won't
Hmm.
be able to be as crisp and remember things.
You
I mean,
can't focus, right?
and cannabis helps me so much, Rodney.
Hmm.
And one of the things that, a little bit back to the pharmaceutical thing, I
Hmm.
think one way that we can change that narrative is if the people with the money, the companies, the licensed producers, the growers, those that have the funds, if they included the advocates, the activists, the people that have been fighting the war for so long, and we saw those faces, not celebrity faces, but the face of the real patient, the
Hmm.
face of the real activist that, went to jail for the plant for, smoking a joint in Idaho.
Selling $20 worth, yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Like those are the guys that should have a seat at the table. The
Hmm.
patients who have been wronged by the system that really have all this knowledge because they've had no other choice other than to be their own advocate. We're the ones who know what works. Why would you not want us at your table? I find it incredibly frustrating as an advocate.
Hmm.
Everyone wants me because I have an insane social media following and, you know,
Hmm.
I'm very, very fortunate with my network and I'm so super grateful. But it doesn't seem like any companies want to invest in advocacy anymore. It seems like they've forgotten the importance. Now working with Americans for Safe Access to create
Hmm.
a New York Patient Advisory Council. I'm part of that because it's not a paid position. It's not about being paid. It's about the message that their influence, Americans for Safe Access, is so they're recognized in the field. But
Yeah.
yet they have licensed producers telling them or multi state operators that, yeah, we don't have money to support you this year, even though we've given you so much money in the past because
Right.
we've given your mission and you're helping change the laws and you're getting us in those states for recreational use or
Hmm.
adult use. But yeah, we don't need you anymore because we have enough customers.
So
Or
they've kind of reached, to a point where they've made a business and money decision where it's you're no longer worth their investment. They're not getting the return they wanted and whatever have you. I think that's
I
so
think
fucked
they
up.
I
I
think
really
they've
do.
gotten the return. I think
Okay.
now they think they don't need to continue to get the return
I
because
think that's selling yourself short a little bit. I think that's, I think it is because if you say they've already gotten their return, that would definitively basically be, all right, well, I get it. It's not anything personal. I think your story continues. I think that your message, would resound with more people than your social following or anyone that they could reach. I think that there's people out there, honestly, to tell you the truth, hidden behind their doctors, whatever age. I'm not going to discriminate there, whether it be, an elderly person or a young, 8-year-old kid with CBD or whatever have you. I think there's people out there hidden behind their doctors that, your advocacy could eventually reach. Ergo, in a perfect world, kind of going the way that we were going with it. Like you said, descheduling it, putting it in pharmaceuticals. I think according to that narrative that you're not done yet. I think that your message needs to continue because real talk, your life is continuing. Each day is different, okay? Especially with a TBI, especially with a hidden illness, especially with mental health. Now, I think it being mental health, oriented, and I say that because TBIs do affect your mental health. Sometimes, like you said, withdrawing from let's say Adderall here. We were talking about that. Withdrawing from Adderall or alcohol or any kind of outside substance that isn't natural. I think that it does create bitchiness in some people, to coin that phrase real quick. But I think that's part of the withdrawal process. I also think that, with that comes some mental health that we can't see on the inside, and we're projecting this unbeknownst to what, or how we feel about it. I think that, and I say we as in just generalize, I don't want to pick, a specific person and pick on them, but I will if I have to. Um, I think that I think that your story's definitely not done. Obviously, it's not. You know, it's just getting started. I honestly believe wholeheartedly that you're just getting rid of the bums. You're just getting, and I say that because that's how they're acting. You know, imagine you're Al Capone and you've built this empire. You know, you speak in two different languages, if you will. You know, you've done this thing to where like people are coming for you. You know, but that's all right. People can come for me. That's fine. Keep coming. I mean, you can take that as a sexual connotation all you want, but the fact of the matter is, I'm used to people coming for me. You know, I'm used to people coming for my job. I'm used to people coming for whatever, and that's great. Keep coming. You know, when it doesn't register on my radar, how big of a deal really are you? You know, so it's interesting because it's like, if I'm ever asked in an interview, and some people have asked this, and you know, obviously it hasn't hit the media because they didn't get the reaction they wanted. They didn't get the drama. They didn't get the shit talking. They didn't get something juicy. They were like, yo, so-and-so is talking shit, you know, blah, 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 blah. Are you going to clap back to that? And be like, who? You know, it's just like what Eminem does. No one gives a shit because, you know, when people come at you like that, you know, it's a one-sided argument, because I can absolutely assure you that I don't give a shit, because here's the thing. Just because they said no, don't mean everybody else is gonna. All right, you know, you said no, you wasted my fucking time. Cool, it's great. I'm just gonna go hear no 15 more times. That's fine, and then I'm gonna clock out for the day. You know, mentally. When they hear that, they're kind of like, "Oh, who is this cocky son of a bitch?" I'm not cocky, man. You know, I just know me. You know, same as you know you. You know, and that's the perspective that we're always gonna want to see, but never want to pay for. You know, and that's the point of it. Being a chef, everybody thinks that food is ridiculously expensive, which in turn makes them think that they can cook. They cannot. I'm gonna fucking tell you right now. I've had some people go, oh, I've won this award, I've won that award, I've done this, I've done that. And I'm gonna tell you this right here. Much like the military, just real briefly, and then we'll move on to something different. Much like the military, there is a such thing as stolen valor in kitchens. What that is taking food that you did not make and claiming it as your own. Okay? Now, who would do that? Lots of people, especially people that are fucked up or trying to hide something or whatever, okay? I've seen people, I shit you not, order food from a different restaurant or catering company or something, okay? Unwrap it, reheat it, unwrap it, put it on a plate, charge people money for this, and then claim it as their own.
Wow.
Yeah, I've seen that more times than I would love to admit, you know, and it's interesting because the exact same thing, going way back to the you know, talking about the cattiness of the cannabis industry, that happens. And it happens in almost any industry. I can tell you it's happened to food, and I'm sure you know it's happened in like hospitals and growing up in the medical industry. Everybody's just they're running, you know, with napalm tinged fucking, you know, feet on fire up this hill trying to get to the top of it as fast as they can. Well, here's what they don't realize, and I kind of want to end that conversation on this note. The amount of time that it takes you to get to the top, it's only going to take a fraction of that for you to fall. If there's not a good foundation up there, you're going to fall, and you're going to know what rock bottom's like. And I'm going to tell you, you know, it sucks. It sucks, but weed helps, you know, weed definitely helps. And I didn't really mean to go on that little, you know, tirade, but I did what I did, and it is what it is. I want to know a little bit more about this interview that I seen as of late. You went on Montel Williams.
Montel was pretty cool. I'm not going to lie, Rob.
Tell me some more about that.
It was a really cool conversation. Montel is really smart. He really knows this plant and is an amazing advocate. And yes, when I first started cannabis, you know, and using it after my injury, when I started becoming more familiar, and I had heard Montel's story and using it for MS. And I mean, MS, Alzheimer's, TBI, mental health, they're all the part of the brain, right?
Right.
So hearing that he was having success using cannabis, it made me feel less dirty, if that makes any sense. I mean, Montel was a big deal when I was growing up and stuff. He had his shows and stuff like that. I don't think the guy's aged a bit, though. I got to tell you, he looks identical to when he did 20 years ago. um, he just looks the same, and yet he's much more passionate and compassionate, especially it seems to patient stories.
Okay.
Um, after I had my conversation with him, I mean, it helped my social media, and I'm sure it helped his,
Right.
uh, because we're both real people. He's famous, not me so much, but I'm not trying to be famous. I'm trying to
Right.
make this plant famous. I'm trying to help normalize the conversation. I'm the 51-year-old female that believed growing up the war on drugs, your brain fried in a frying
We
pan,
remember the commercials. Yeah. Yeah.
commercials that just
Yeah.
say no. I'm here to say I changed my mind 180%. And with doing that interview with Montel and seeing the overwhelming excitement of people, you're on Montel Williams.
Hmm.
It's like, yes, but cannabis was on Montel Williams.
Right. Right.
It was about the plant.
Hmm.
And I have gone such an amazing journey I've had with this plant and meeting so many cool people. And I have a network that's amazing. I've just been appointed to an advisory board position with Cannabis BPO. They're like a back end call center for cannabis. And
Okay.
they're really trying to get it from the patient perspective. Again, patients are the experts, or consumers are the experts. Ask us. Don't
Hmm.
just assume some marketing dude or something in a petri dish that worked, for one person is going to be the norm. You need data. You need people willing to talk about their experience so that you get multiple perspectives. We don't know what we don't know, Rodney. And I
Hmm.
was one of those people that didn't know. And like, you know, I truly believe, like, I didn't understand that about chef stuff. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, that people might go to a restaurant down the
Yeah.
street, claim it's theirs.
Yeah.
That's like crazy.
It's
Like,
catty to say the very least. It's catty, and it's in every industry of all walks of life. I really liked, and real quick, I want to point something out. I really liked what you just said. We don't know what we don't know. I think that's probably the most pragmatic way of looking at it. But I do want to point something out. You are one, not just you, love. Not just you, but everyone. As a person, as a patient, as anything, you're allowed to change your mind with new information. Like, don't let anybody tell you otherwise, because that is the absolute truth. You're allowed to, definitely change your mind with new evidence. If you're like, all right, check it out. 20 years ago, would you have smoked a joint to fix, whatever problems? No, I don't think so. You'd have been like, no, I'm gonna do, 5 to 10 in the pen. Like, I'm not digging it.
right.
Um, my
Especially not
pastor
when
said
especially not when
exactly.
your father was the drug liaison between the
Oh
US
no.
and Canada. Yeah,
Oh no.
he was
Yeah,
Customs Border Patrol. Yeah, no. No.
that's a bad idea. Then it's definitely a bad idea. Um, but there were those people that were like, it's just weed, man, or whatever have you. There's whatever stigma you want to believe, whatever drug-free America commercial you want, whatever it is. Uh, I do remember that, like, scrambled egg in a cast iron pan, and she's like, any questions? And it's like, drugs are bad, or whatever. So, um, and then here it is, 2020, 2022, and we're like, yay, drugs. You know what I mean? Like, drugs are on
Let's
the war
do
on drugs.
some MDMA. Let's drop some acid. Let's see how that affects the brain. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but I mean in clinical studies. But
Mhm.
this is what needs to happen. We need to find alternative sources that actually help people, not just a pharmaceutical company putting stuff together in a pill form and saying this is going to cure your depression. We
Right.
need real world evidence of people. And yes, they do clinical trials, but again, they're all in such a controlled environment. You need to have real life. Like, you're going to have blips in the road, just like you mentioned earlier.
Hmm.
And we have to be able to see beyond that, whether it's a company, whether it's a person.
Right.
I didn't know what I didn't know. Sanjay Gupta went on
Hmm.
CNN and admitted He was
Hmm.
wrong.
Yeah.
That was a huge turning point for the medical profession to even consider. I mean, like this much
Hmm.
cannabis could be helpful, right? And
Absolutely.
before that happened, it was really taboo. And I mean, he just came out of it, what, 5 years ago? I mean, it hasn't been like that long
It was, yeah, it hasn't been that long.
where he expressed approval for it and, and said, I was wrong. I'm the
Hmm.
first person to say I'm wrong when I'm wrong. But I truly believe we can't fix the past. And if we
Hmm.
always look at the past, all that does is give us depression. And if we constantly worry about the future, all that does is give us anxiety. So, what I try and practice every single day, Rodney, is
Hmm.
living in the moment. I
Yeah.
try to do what I can with what I have right now. I can't worry about tomorrow because it's not here yet. So,
No.
why use my mental capacity?
Hmm.
So, you're asking, probably the most profound thing I've learned about cannabis is it allows me to live in the moment. It
Hmm.
allows me to focus on the present. It's not a cure all, it doesn't cure me. It helps manage my symptoms. It's a tool in the toolbox of coming up with life hacks every day of how to live your best life, you
You're
know?
creating a better quality of life. That's what you're doing.
Correct.
So I do have a question actually. So we're talking about natural things that obviously come from the ground and that have zero side effects and X, Y, and Z. What is your take on mushrooms, like psilocybin more specifically?
So, amazing studies are being done. And I've
Hmm.
heard so many profound stories that if I was not anaphylactically allergic to fungi, I would be trying them myself. Um, there are amazing like retreats going on that you can
Hmm.
go like to Jamaica or Costa Rica
California. Yep. Yep.
that are doing microdosing, and this is expanding to clinical trials. This is expanding into the
Hmm.
pharmaceutical world. And I truly believe it's going to hold incredible promise, like ketamine. Like, who would have
Hmm.
thought ketamine? you know, um,
I have a friend. Real quick story
MDMA,
about ketamine. Sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
MDMA and
Hmm.
ketamine and all these things that were always like, oh my God, what are you doing? Now we're microdosing that stuff. And again, more research needs to be
Hmm.
done, but by allowing this, by Oregon decriminalizing all drugs, I mean, that's a huge thing for companies to be able to provide wellness and mental health retreats. And we need to talk about these invisible illnesses and we need to normalize that conversation. And if we
Hmm.
can bring someone from the bowels of death, of depression, to now functioning, isn't that more important than arresting them? I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Isn't that more important than getting a return on your investment?
Facts.
That's what I was saying. I love being able to full circle because that was my entire point by me telling you that your story's not over with. You know what I'm saying? So, that's what you're worth, girl. There's it's insurmountable. Um and yes, there's a lot of research being done with psilocybin. Microdosing is amazing. Especially here in Michigan, like there's a lot of people that certain places in Michigan, shrooms are decriminalized already. You'll just get a stupid fine or something, or no one even cares. That's the thing. There is a line in a movie. I want to say that it was 40-Year-Old Virgin, where Harold Ramis was sitting across from Seth Rogen, and it's his dad kind of thing. And he goes, "Listen," he goes, smoking weed is fine. Or it was a Knocked Up. It was the movie. It was a Knocked Up, and Harold Ramis goes, and the line was, "If it's from the ground, it's probably okay." That's the way that I saw it. Seth Rogen was kind of giving him guff in that scene about, hey, you were telling me not to smoke weed, where you were smoking weed the entire time. He was like, well, yeah, you know what I mean? And that's the hypocrisy kind of in the generations before us. Let's face it, a lot of people have tried cannabis, but you can't just smoke it once and expect it to work
No.
instantly for your elongated problems. And that is why we're talking about it today. I've never heard of mushrooms killing somebody unless they were allergic to them, which is a different story. Um, I've never heard cannabis, killing anybody unless they're allergic to it. But that's just it. It really doesn't have that kind of quality to it. It's actually equivalent to, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, the number of people impaled by a unicorn. You know, absolutely zero. But, you know, I think that in the realm of things changing in the world, legalization, you know, kind of being, I guess, you know, tarried in front of us like the carrot that we're, you know, advantageously chasing, you know, I think that puts us in a position where, honestly, if all of the, whether it's illicit or not, all of the vices out there, I do believe that cannabis is probably the most democratic of all. And this is why I say this. Like you said, with whiskey, you can drink all you want. I've never known somebody to, you know, be real chill on whiskey or calm down. It exacerbates the problem. Cocaine, same thing. You know, heroin, I could go on, you know. You're never going to be able to kind of calm down and relax on things, such as they tell you in the emergency room. Let's say you're having, you know, a appendicitis or an actual emergency. What's the first fucking thing the doctors are going to tell you and the nurses? You need to calm down. I need here's where your heart rate's at. I need you down here. Okay. That's the first thing they're going to tell you. So if we just take that medical notion, okay, right here it is, and we look at what cannabis does, you're going to notice they're the same. They're the same. So I remember like being high as shit, accident, and going to a doctor's appointment, not an accident, you know, because I have to have an inhaler. I'm asthmatic. It is what it is. Years of smoking cigarettes, that'll do that to you. I don't smoke cigarettes, but if I smoke a lot of weed or certain types of smoke, yeah, it'll trigger. It is what it is. I was just getting checked up for my new inhaler, and he checked my vitals when I first came in, and he goes, "You're really calm." I'm like, "Yeah, I am." That's all I said. He's like, "People usually are nervous when they come to the doctor's office." I was like, "No, I'm usually not nervous where I go anywhere." And then we made eye contact. He goes, "Okay." He goes, "Are you under the influence of any alcohol right now?" I was like, "Nope." He goes, "Marijuana?" I go, "Spell that for me." And he goes, "Okay. All right. Yeah." He goes, "Do you smoke?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? You're my doctor." He goes, "Okay. Yep." And he was just, it was kind of a friendly banter because he didn't really know what to say. But it wasn't anything negative. There wasn't a negative connotation. He goes, "Dude, you're looking good." He goes, "Aside from the asthma, you're doing all right." You know what I mean? And then mental health issues, but that's the wrong person to talk to about that. They're just going to push you on, "Oh, here's 59 things." Circling back to the ketamine thing, I did want to mention something real quick while we have time here. I had a friend who got into some pretty hardcore shit. You know, he was doing a drug with 4 letters, and it's, I mean, if you misspell math, that's the word you get. In doing that, that's very highly addictive. You know, that lifestyle, the euphoria, everything of that nature. He was a military person. You know, he's a civilian now, and part of that PTSD is the reason that he went on to do the drug of choice that he did. Got put into the hospital, you know, from doing said drug. I don't remember exactly why, but that's not the important part of the story. The important part of the story is the fact that they kind of ran out of options with this guy, you know, to try and wean him off. And they put him on ketamine, okay? Instantly worked. Instantly fucking worked. He literally, within a few hours of being on ketamine, sat up, was able to be, everything worked. He's like, I felt like as I'm laying there, and this is, you know, I won't say his name or anything, but we had a heart-to-heart at the kitchen table, no less, smoking a joint. And he goes, I was laying in that bed dying. I felt myself actively dying. He's like, I felt as though, you know, I was drifting off. I didn't want to leave. And he goes, I wasn't dead. I was lucid. You know, I was aware of what was going on, but I was groggy. Like I was tired. I was giving up. And he goes, all of a sudden it was just like, I woke up. Like he's like being jerked awake from going to a nap. And he goes, they timed that almost perfectly when they administered the ketamine. And they realized that it worked. And so they tapered him off and things like that. And literally the only thing that he'll have a couple beers now. The only thing the guy really does is smoke weed. That's it. A few cigarettes, mind you, but that's, you know, everybody has their vices, and he doesn't do, you know, math anymore. You know what I mean? So being able to have this person back in our lives, and reformed, if you will, or reforming, or just having another crack at it, you know, I think that it's worth looking into. I really hope. I don't believe in a lot of the other stuff out there, like ketamine, yeah, LSD, yeah, DMT, MDMA, all of these things that you're saying, you know, absolutely. I don't believe in what was the ketamine, or not ketamine, kratom. Sorry, kratom. I don't believe in kratom. I I don't. I think kratom is like. Do you remember, or did your state ever get hit with the whole K2 craze, the synthetic weed?
Yes,
Okay, do you remember that?
vaguely. I
Right.
wasn't really paying attention.
I just smoked regular weed at the time. I smoked it once. I was like, that's stupid. Not doing that. It says on the package, not for consumption. Smoke it. And it was potpourri, is what it is.
Oh,
Really bad for you. Really bad for you. But they wanted to make a synthetic weed. Terrible. So I think that kratom is like the K2 of weed, if that makes any consolation. It might have, you know, some placebo effects on people, but I don't think that there's any science backing it to push it off of anything besides a dietary supplement. You know, whereas with cannabis, we've already got doctors going, I don't know what you did, but you had cancer 3 months ago. Now you don't. What did you do different? And then when you go, oh, I just I just upped my cannabis intake, or I started taking Rick Simpson, or, you know, daily affirmations, whatever the change may be. If they can't write that down on paper, they don't believe in it. You know what I mean? I think that, you know, I will acquiesce a little bit. I will recant my statement and about what I said about pharmaceutical companies. I dislike what they've done, but I do agree with you. I do think that if it is a necessary evil, then so be it. But at the same time, I will say this: if they fuck up, it's on you. No one else, not them. It's on you. I'm gonna tell them too. I'm gonna be like, no, 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 no. You're good. You're good. Nikki vouched for you. Nikki, why they fuck up? You know what? I'm just kidding. But I think it was, you know, great that you went on Montel Williams. I think it's great what you're doing. I think you're just getting started, but please don't hold me to that, because I'm brand new at this myself. It's always a pleasure to be able to sit down and find out what's healing a person and how they're healing from it. You know, it's one of those things to give depth and emotion to a situation. It's one of another of those things to be able to find out what really is going on inside of the mind of a person who has been pulled from those said depths of, you know, suicidal tendencies, and, you know, those terrible just depths of despair, you know. And I think we owe it to the people who never got actually a chance to get out of that, you know, that were lost to the abyss, if you will. I think we owe it to them and owe it to ourselves, and people that we don't even know that are trying to heal from something. I think we owe it to them to do what we do. Um,
I genuinely feel that I'm the voice for those that don't have one. I
correct.
definitely feel that I'm making a difference for so many people just by keeping it real and being my authentic self. I don't have all the answers, but I sure as hell can tell you from a perspective of a 51-year-old woman who had a very vibrant, positive, active life. My life changed in a second.
Hmm.
I was at the point of dying, killing myself because of the pharmaceuticals I was on. This plant saved my life, Rodney.
Yeah,
I want to
yeah.
help others find it. So that is my whole purpose in life. That is what I've been called to do. And I truly believe everything happens for a reason. And I believe I was chosen for this journey because of who I am, meaning
Hmm.
who I was before. I literally went from being a provider to a patient to now an advocate and a voice for those that have none. I believe the people that hate the plant the most need it the most.
Hmm.
And I believe that we can change one person's mind. It's going to continue to be a ripple effect. The starfish story comes to mind. A guy was walking on a beach and he sees this woman just throwing things into the ocean. He
Hmm.
gets up to her and says, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I'm saving these starfish as the tide comes in or goes out." Yeah, goes out.
Hmm.
They're all going to die. And he's like, "Dear, there's thousands of starfish. How are you going to do it?" And she said, "If I can make a difference for just this one, I
Mm-hmm.
saved it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's honestly my theme. That's my go to. If I can change the perspective of just one person, then I've done my job for the day. And that's all I'm trying to do. It's not about being famous, it's
Mm-hmm.
about being real.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and a lot of people will say different, but you know, fuck them. We don't care what they say. That's where I'm at with it. I can assure you that's a one-sided beef because honestly, I don't really give a shit. But dude, you know, it's always grateful to see other people out there doing it. You know, something so selfless. You know, something like, listen, you know, pharmaceuticals put me into the, you know, traumatic injury happened. Okay, went to my doctors as it would happen, insurance companies, the whole nine, pharmaceuticals, everything, you know, um, and then I'm told these, you know, I got to be put on, you know, these specific medications. Well, they're making my life a living fucking hell. You know what I'm saying? And I smoked a joint, and all of that goes away. Well, you guys tell me that I can't do that, but it's working for me. You understand? Whereas these side effects, I mean, there's a litany and a laundry list of side effects on the pharmaceutical side, and no hungry, happy, sleepy on the other. You know, which those are doable. You can deal with those. All right. Death is on the other side too. Oh, don't accidentally take more than two of these. What if I accidentally forgot? With a TBI, it's very common to get, you know, brain fog and forget about things. You could take more than a couple of Oxycontin and you're never going to wake up again. You know, that's an accident. Those things happen. You know, if we could save one person from that, you're absolutely correct there. We've done our job. I can't thank you enough for coming on today. I really can't. I got to catch up with you again and see how much further you got. You know, I love seeing that. It's a success story that should be blast, you know, on throughout every satellite and every screen and every cell phone of the world. I honestly believe. But just in case you guys don't know who she is, Nikki and the Plant on Instagram at Nikki Nikki and the Plant on Instagram. Go follow her, and then she's also got her website, which I actually checked out with the polka dots and everything. I was like, okay, she put on some work. But that's Nikki and the Plant, spelled the same way .org. Definitely go check them out. You can also check out us and everything that I do here at the Daily Chronicles at Deliciously Dope TV on Instagram, Facebook at Deliciously Dope TV. We're also on Twitter and TikTok and all the other, so many things. Like we're on Discord. There's just so many social media outlets now. If you guys can't find us, you're not looking hard enough. That's really what it is. But I want to thank my lovely guest, you know, Nikki Lawley, Nikki and the Plant, if you will, today for coming on. I mean, you know, if you had one thing to say to people that are hurting right now, looking for a new answer, a new medication, a new life, a new reason to come into cannabis, what would you tell them?
Trust the journey, trust the plant, and don't give up just because one thing didn't work for you. Edibles didn't work for me. I have to smoke my medicine.
Mhm.
Maybe you do too. Or maybe it's just the opposite. Edibles will work for you, but don't give up. Keep trying.
Yeah, I think that that's probably some of the best advice I've ever heard. Very short, succinct, simple, straight to the point, easy to remember. Important with somebody with a TBI. Yeah, I would just want to add to that real quick. Just know what you're healing. You know, it's important. I mean, if you come at it with, you know, you're smoking a strain, terpenes are, you know, it's so much diverse than we're even trying to give it credit to be. But Nikki, I thank you again for coming on the Daily Chronicles. I really do. I hope to see you much, much farther in your journey here, you know, really soon. But yeah, no, my tokers, jokers, and smokers, this has been another edition of the Daily Chronicles. I want to again say thank you to Nikki for coming on the show. Yeah, we'll catch you guys on the flip side, y'all. Peace.